Hi everyone, and welcome to How Good's Footy in Asia, AFL Asia's official podcast. I'm your host, Matty Go, in Osaka, Japan. And joining me from Saigon in Vietnam is the great man himself, Billy Bang Bang Krang. How's things, Bill?
Yeah, not too bad, Matty. Weather's pretty good. I think we're about to get back into some footy training after a mid-year break, and obviously looking forward to the champs massively.
Yeah, it's in everyone's sights now. We're under 100 days, folks, before their 2022 AFL Asia Asian Championships, and we're all looking forward to it. Can't wait to get the family back together. Bill, last week was probably the best round of the AFL season this year. Included last Friday night's exhilarating draw between Richmond and Freo, the amazing second half comeback from Port Adelaide that give the Cats a massive fright there. The two blockbuster Saturday night clashes, obviously the Q clash and the big game between the Bulldogs and the D's. And then there was Billy Elliott's goal after the siren for Collingwood, which could potentially be the goal of the year as well. Mara's breakout bag of 5 goals and Toby Green's hanger. So it was an extraordinary weekend of footy, and I'm probably up there with the best of the year, along with the round, I think, a few weeks ago where we had all top 8 teams playing each other. So what were some of your takes out of last weekend's footy?
Yeah, I think the last few weeks, it's obviously building. I think we're heading towards a massive final series. It's clearly as open a season as you'll ever get. Bring it on. Obviously, I hope Melbourne sort of get their act together. Aside from that.
Yeah, I think Richmond's probably the bearer of bad fruit. They lost the last 2 easy wins and drawn against the Dockers. And they could be well entrenched in the 4 if they hadn't have done that. So, big games coming up, 8-point games every week from here on in. And if you're doing your ladder predictor like we've done, there's just so many things that spins up. So we'll get to that shortly. But, Bill, we'll go to review our preseason predictions now. Difficult time of the year. It's like trying to pick a winner of the Melbourne Cup in the pre-season, and you generally get 5 or 6 right out of the top 8, but we've gone above and beyond. Let's go through that now, if we can.
Yep. And just Matty, my audio might be struggling a little bit, so I'll keep the speaking as minimal as possible, but leave it mostly to you.
Yeah, sure. As we saw, we've got our top 4s there. I think they're pretty much on the money. Richmond could actually be in there if it hadn't have been for some slumps throughout the year. My top 8, I really, as everyone would have thought, GWS, they've just had a massive falling from grace. Everyone underestimates Geelong every year, and they're looking at the top of the tree at the moment, and the team to beat. And Carlton, we're probably surprised how far they've come. Both of us do not have Freo or Collingwood in our top 8, and I'm sure there wouldn't be too many Collingwood supporters that would have either at the start of the year. Bill, your top 4's looking pretty good. Again, you've only got the 2 different there that could have been in or out, but Sydney, I think they're... Look at our ladder predictors later on to see if we've got Sydney in that top 4 spot or not. But Geelong, right at the top of the tree. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, moving through.
All right. So Collingwood, obviously, we've both got them at the bottom of that top 6, and Freo, I've got them in the hunt. And I guess they're punched above their weight a bit this year, Bill. But the disappointing one we've both got there is Essendon.
Yeah, I think Freo is going to be a real... I mean, have they been a little bit found out? Do they need to go back and rebuild a bit? The last few weeks aren't really setting the world on fire. I think Friday night's game, Melbourne Freo, will be fascinating because both those teams now, have the early runs on the board, but what's it all going to amount to? I reckon Friday will tell us quite a bit.
Yeah, we'll go through that in more detail later in the podcast. So the Premiers, I think at the moment, just go back to that.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's all right. We've both got the wooden spooners wrong. You're closer to what I am, but the interesting one's the Brownlow. If you had to predict someone to win it now, who would you predict?
I still think, obviously, Oliver's probably second. Brayshaw seems like he just racks them up every week. So every game Freo win, he's going to be thereabouts. And when they lose, he's probably going to be up for 1 or 2 as well. He's playing a perfect Brownlow season, front and centre, in front of the umps, doing everything right. Clayton Oliver, I don't know if it hurts him that Melbourne have just become less and less efficient because he's driving a lot of those forward thrusts, and it just looks a lot better when it's turning into scores rather than the crap they've been serving up the last few weeks. So, don't know if that hurts his tilt a little bit.
Yeah, good call.
Who do you see?
Yeah, it's probably Clary Oliver. He's averaging 34 disposals, the most in the league, and there's just so many players in Melbourne's team that can take votes off him. Whereas Brayshaw, he's had a few good midfielders around him. Sarong goes all right, I just think he's probably the likely winner. Lockie Neal's probably got enough votes there to win it as well. The Bont's been a bit hit and miss, and there's a few that have fallen away. But I think Clary has to be Clary or Andrew Brayshaw. Yeah. All right, so the medal, I'm sitting second. I still think
you found it.
Can knock off Curnow. Curno's probably been a surprise packet, and I had him in my career resurgence predictions earlier in the season. But I've got the Rising Star nailed. Still time for Big Astronaut to get the mark of the year.
No,
I think you've got goal of the year, Bill.
I'm closer. I'm closer to the pin. That's for sure.
Because some of his goals that he kicked up in Alice Springs against Port Adelaide, were absolutely magnificent. So he's still in the running there. I think Rochelle's done and dusted for this year. They might bring him back this week. There's talk of that, but
just on an aside, Matty, who do you reckon was goal of the game last week? Collingwood Essendon. It's actually one of the hardest.
Yeah. Dacos was the better goal, but given the circumstances, Billy Elliott's goal after the siren, it's every kid's dream. And it was actually a rather difficult shot that he went a little bit left to right. Did you know the last 10 goals kicked after the siren
haven't missed?
Haven't missed. So I think it dates back to about 2018, which is quite remarkable. It doesn't include the shots that don't make the distance. So there's quite a few of them as well that we don't actually consider and not a part of the stats as such. But it's a pretty impressive record. Yeah, it's got plenty of blokes with ice in their veins, that's for sure. Yeah. All right, let's move along to that next slide there, Bill. So we've got our ladder predictors, and apologies to those folks that are watching the podcast live or about to watch it in the future. The ladders are a little bit small on the angle. Hopefully you can zoom in on your phone. But I've actually done this every Monday for the past month. I love it, and it just comes up with so many different algorithms and variabilities, variables every time you do it. And there's just so many 8-point games. It's been an extraordinary season, and this is what it's going to dish up again. So, Bill, I'll let you go through your ladder there. And I think that you've gone... Here you go.
It's funny I've gone the other way to you. I've given up on about 5 weeks ago. I started thinking, where's all this heading? And I think I went and did it that would be about 12 rounds out. So it takes quite a while, and you get there and you have a look at it and you feel pretty proud of yourself sitting there going, okay, this is how things are shaping up. But then the weekend comes and you're that far off. I mean, if you're tipping 6 a week, you're doing well, right? But that means you're missing 3 on the predictor, and those 3 are making such a big difference. The perfect example on my ladder there is that I've tipped Freo to beat Melbourne this Friday, tomorrow night. And if they don't, I think they go to 5th on my ladder predictor, and Melbourne would then get to 2nd, but that's assuming they beat Collingwood. It's just so many variables that it's now... I think it means nothing, to be honest. I've given up.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest game that'll sort of tell us where those two teams are and make up of the 4. This one has the most bearing on any game this season. I've had Western Bulldogs at 8th, then I've had Richmond at 8th, and I really honestly don't know. I think both teams probably deserve to be in there. I don't think Collingwood actually deserve to be in. And we'll go through some stats a little bit later as to why and where they are on the ladder and why they're there. But yeah, Freo, I think the Swans will stay in there, that's for sure. I can't see Melbourne dropping out of the top four. And looks like Collingwood should lock in the 6th or 7th. This ladder that I've got, this ladder is what I predicted 2 weeks ago. I went on an SEN competition. So all the ladder predictors went in there. And you got a game, I don't know what level of AFL value, but it was a ticket for two to any game that you want to watch in the 2023 season. I think it was platinum offer. And they wiped out about 2/3 of the predictors in the first week. So, yeah, extraordinary. All right, Bill, thanks for that. Interestingly enough, it's going to be an exciting run into the remainder of the season. All right, let's go to what's happening around the region. Now, AFL Japan had their round 5 of their A-League season last Sunday. The Tokyo-based Suns obliterated the Eastern Hawks 142-31, which is a 111-point victory. The Hawks really struggling this year. In the battle of the two universities, the Kamizawa Magpies defeated the Century Powers 73-46, and Kamizawa Magpies at this middle stage of the season look like the favourites, and to go back-to-back, which would be extraordinary. AFL Pakistan are preparing a training regime to select their Asian Champs teams, which is brilliant and fantastic to see. The Bali Geckos have been actively and literally taking the game to the people as part of their AFL Asia Development Grants program. So they've been going out to rural villages and out into the community, which is terrific as well. The Bintangs teamed up with the Australian Embassy earlier in the month and delivered a training session at a local junior high school. So they're kicking goals on and off the field as well. And as you know, Bill, Viet Kick is to kick off for 8 weeks from this Saturday in Saigon. And all the youngsters there.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting for us. We've had a bit of support from the AFL Grants program and the Australian Embassy here. And I do think for us, we did have a strong Saigon Auskick system going, the Saigon Colts, a few years ago, and just through volunteers moving on and lack of manpower, that couldn't continue. So I think it's massive for us it connects the club to a whole different community, families and things like that, and then the vision that Kero's sort of pushing is that we move towards a pathway, because we also found when we had Auskick before that the kids get to 12, 13, 14 and they're a bit bigger than the others and they might go and play soccer or basketball. So we want to get them into it might be half training with the adults and half doing some other stuff, but a connection that gets them from Auskick onto the field for generations to come. So it's really exciting to get that started. And for us, it starts this Saturday.
Yeah, brilliant, Bill. Most clubs are actually in a bit of a mid-season recess with the summer break. It's just extraordinarily hot across Asia at the moment, and you can imagine that it's a good time. People are on school holidays as well. Let's move along to Asian Champs. Now, everyone's itching in a bit to get over to Thailand. This year's Asian Champs will be played at the Bangkok Patana School Sports Complex. Now, interestingly enough, Bill, I've heard during the week that the Tigers hosted the 2007 and 2011 Asian Champs there at the same venue. So some of our old school footballers from yesteryear will be heading back on a walk down memory lane as we go back to that 2007 and 2011 venue in Bangkok on October 22nd. On face value at the moment, and things could change quite rapidly depending on COVID-related issues. We may have 6 Division 1 teams, 8.
Wow.
8. That's 8 AFLW teams, an increase of 2 extra teams, which may see Indonesia and Pakistan. We'll talk more about them very shortly. We could have 4 or 5 Div 2 teams and potentially 4 Div 3 teams. And the likelihood of the China Reds going is very, very minute. So Hong Kong, still, I think we heard last week, I had a meeting about the Asian Champs and they still have a 7-day quarantine in place for returning travellers. So I guess we can expect that the Hong Kong Dragons and their 3 teams may be up in the air. And as mentioned, AFL Pakistan have indicated they're going to bring a men's and women's team, which would be huge for them.
Wow.
And the region. So we know we've spoken to Inam al-Haq. We've done heaps of footage and stuff on our social media platforms about AFL Pakistan. And, you feel as though you know Inam al-Haq and some of the boys from AFL Pakistan. They headed over to Dubai a few weeks ago. They were hoping to get a game over there. Wrong time of the year, though. But it'd be fantastic to meet them in person and just bring another culture into the AFL Asia family. Would be awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, incredible. And as always, we know it would be well hosted. Bangkok's always been a favourite destination for Asian footy tournaments. And good to see Root on the comments. However, he's not too happy with the ladder predictors, which is it's actually fair. They've only got to jag the Freo game, and I think that all changes.
Yeah, I agree. I want to know, Root, where do you think the Dogs will finish? Will they finish from 8th? And I'll tell you what, if they do finish 8th, they could run the gauntlet again. That's how good their form is.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the Dogs and their current form when we get into this week's round 20 clashes, which we'll get to now. Bill, Friday night, Optus Stadium, 5th place Freo takes on 2nd place Melbourne in an absolute huge blockbuster. So just some of my takes for this week. Andrew Brayshaw is in Brownlow form, whilst his brother is Melbourne's Mr. Fix-It. Fife is out after being pretty underwhelming, albeit looked their most capable forward before getting injured last week. Oliver, second week back after that hand injury and should bounce back as he's leading the AFL in disposals with 34 posies per game. You guys really missed Levers intercepting last week, and I really love Ed Langdon on the wing there for the D's. He's running an average of 17.2 kilometres per game and ranked number 1 in the AFL. Now, both clubs are 2 and 5 from 2 wins from their last 5 games, with Freo winning only 1 of their last 3. A top 4 spot up for grabs, Bill. We'll go down to the wire. I'm going with Melbourne by 15. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I think your insights are spot on. I do. There's one more thing to watch though that I heard. I actually heard it driving my motorbike into the office here this morning. Just have a look at Big Darcy when he gets a go at Luke Jackson. Could be a bit of a lamb to the slaughter there. You can have your $1 million, but I reckon he's going to put you through the ringer when he gets a chance. So there's a chance that Melbourne can hide him a little bit and, try and watch Darcy's rotations. But somehow you'd think Freo just gives him a little bit of a chance to put the body in. And the example, I think it was Kane Collins was giving the example this morning, but the last time he went after somebody like this was Carlton's Pitney, and he's still struggling. So just watch the big fella. It gets the knee right up and right through a bloke that he thinks is physically not deserving of sort of being in the same contest as him. And so I just think that'll be fascinating because there's no doubt if they bring Jackson in on those dollars next year, he's already sat there and thought, what the hell does that mean for me? I thought I was the upcoming, best ruckman in the game, and they've gone and got an alternate upcoming best ruckman in the game. So I just think that'll be a fascinating side pot. I do hope Melbourne win. For the ladder predictor, I actually flipped it to Freo on my second go, so I've got no idea, but I still think Melbourne are going to click, and it's now's as good a time as any.
Yeah, when the back's against the wall, that's what Melbourne does. They show that against Brisbane.
Yeah.
Their muscles. It's probably the only really convincing game they've played all year. They've just done enough to win throughout the season.
So we'll see.
All right, let's go to the Saturday traditional time slot at the MCG. Collingwood 4th spot taking on Port Adelaide in 11th. Scott Pendlebury's just been in unbelievable form. Been an absolute mastermind in defence. Drifts through the midfield. His composure with ball in hand has been outstanding. The Dacos brothers have been in terrific form. I can't think of any brothers that have been as good as this for a long time. Nick Dacos, best first-year player since Chris Judd or even Nathan Buckley back in 1993. Josh Dacos statistically is ranked the number one wingman in the AFL. But listen to these stats here, Bill. Pies have beaten 15th, 12th, 18th, 16th and 14th by total margin of 33 points the past 5 weeks. So are they really a legitimate top 4 team? I don't think they are. I think they've really overachieved and they're ready for the taking. I don't think it'll be this week though. So, but Wines and Jonas were the joint captains. They're playing the 200th games, both of them this week. Connor Rosey has been a magnificent breakout form, particularly since their rise from round 6. Carl Amon will join Hawthorn as a free agent at the end of the season. Amazingly, his mother works at Hawthorn. And this is Port's last mathematical throw at the dartboard. So the Pies are gunning for 10 in a row. I'm going to tip the Pies by 27 points, but I think Port are capable of giving them a bit of a fright, Bill.
Yeah, I'm going to tip Port because I think that Kenny Hinkley will convince them that mathematical chance is worth taking. The question, the rider I have on it is whether they can really get up and go again, because that was a phenomenal third quarter they played against Geelong last week, and they should have found a way to win that game, but Geelong just went back to solid footy, nothing outstanding, and Atkins was just incredible in that last quarter. So I'm going to tip Port, but the rider is, if they've sat there and gone, if they've done their ladder predictors and can't find a way in, then it might just all become a bit much for them. But I actually think they're a better team than Collingwood almost on form. So it's just about them putting that form and obviously going hard one more week. And I'd love to see them stay in it. I think they're a great squad. They make the 8 more interesting while they're in contention.
Yeah, Port's really struggling at SANFL level, so their reserves team in the SANFL, I think, bottom 2, really struggling. They haven't got much depth, and they're going to have to do some building on their list because they don't have a lot of depth at the moment. In the other early Saturday game, we're at the SCG Battle of the Bridge. 2 Sydney sides. Sydney 6th spot on the ladder at the moment, and GWS lingering around that bottom 4 and 15th position. Usually a close game, Bill, despite the ladder positions, but I think Sydney too much to play for as their top 4 bound. Now, keep an eye out for this guy. He's gone under the radar. Chad Warner has been in absolutely unbelievable form. GWS, it just feels like the wheels are falling off, Bill, which happens if you've got a coach that's come in mid-year, and once that novelty's worn off, it can really have a negative effect. Now, GWS is another player exodus on its cards, on its hands here with Taranto, Hopper, Bobby Hill, and youngster Tannen Bruin, all on the way out of the club at the end of the year. Buddy Franklin, I think he'll kick a bag in the 9th year of his contract deal when he was originally going up to play with the GWS, according to everyone except for him and the Swans.
That's right.
My tip is Sydney by 5 to 8 snags, Bill. How do you see it?
Yeah, got to agree with everything you said there. I think Sydney do have too much on the line. They're a bit inconsistent earlier in the season, but they've got a pretty nice body of form behind them at this stage, and I just reckon they're the big wild card of the whole thing. They're building nicely, and the Giants they're just waiting to see if they get Clarko or not. The players.
Yeah, interesting. We'll ask you in yes, no later about that one. All right, in the Saturday twilight time slot, we have the St Kilda in 9th spot taking on the Hawks in 13th. Hawks were really good last week, but has St Kilda got a heartbeat left? And can it mount an unlikely finals charge? I don't think so. Hawks are playing above expectations and really have a free hit this week. And as you know, my preseason predictions, I've predicted them to come bottom. So this is the last roll of the dice for the Saints, who are the worst performing relevant side post the bye rounds. And Big Kingy, can you step up for Bill? Kick a bag of 5+. I think he needs to get back into some serious form. At the opposite end of the ground, Mitch Lewis has had a standout year and bagged 37 goals for the Hawks in a breakout year. I'm going to tip the Saints with no conviction. I actually hope the Hawks get up, but this is Saints need to win just to get something out of the back end of this season. They've been very poor. I think they're 1-7 since the bye rounds, Bill.
Yep, I'll tip the Saints too, only because they've got more to play for. But I wouldn't put it past Mitchell to convince the Hawks that destroying a few people's seasons on the way home would be a good takeaway from the season. And I just don't think the Saints are brittle. It wouldn't. Sorry, Yoshi. Wouldn't take much to you get in their face in the first quarter. It wouldn't take much for them to fold. But yeah, you've got to assume that they play for their season and get it done this week.
Yeah, they've got a pretty tough draw coming home, St Kilda. So even if they win this, it's unlikely they'll go anywhere. Saturday night, this is going to be an absolute belter at the Cattery. Top of the tree, Geelong taking on the Western Bulldogs, who are in 8th spot. Only the third time this year, Bill, they've been in the top 8. The Big Hawk is playing his 300th game, and Joel Selwood plays game 350, and only the 21st player in the history of VFL AFL to reach that milestone. Now listen to this impressive stat here, Bill. Selwood has the highest winning percentage of any active player to play over 50 games, and his winning average is 72.64. So imagine that, you're winning 7 games out of 10 every year. The Western Bulldogs haven't won down at the Cattery for 19 years, which is a staggering stat. But the Bulldogs are on the march with plenty of momentum, and they've finally corrected that forward line, looking lethal up front. Cats are the favourites for mine, Bill, and they've got 10 players with 200. What's that?
Jury's back, supposed to help the Bulldogs back line, but I don't see it helping. Hawkins and Cameron will just absolutely feast on the carcass.
Yeah, well, this is it. They've got 12 players over 200 games experience and 15 players with over 100. And they've got potentially 3 All-Australian forwards there, Bill. And Hawkins and Cameron ranked number 1 and 3 in goal involvements in the AFL. Stingles ranked number 12. I've been impressed with DeConing, Bill. He's been rock solid. He'll probably get the run-up of the NAB Rising Star. Mitch Duncan's move to halfback's been exceptional. And as you mentioned before, Atkins and Close have been midfield balls that they've lacked. But the Bont for Root has been enormous the last 2 weeks, racking up 50 posies. Josh Bruce, although he hasn't had a major influence, he's really steadied their forward line. And Jamara last week with a bag of 5 in a breakout game was superb. History is ready to be broken, but I can't really tip against the Cats, Bill. I'm going to go the Cats by under 20. What are your thoughts?
Yep. I'd agree with you there. Probably, I think, actually, relatively comfortably. The only way the Cats have to lose a game somewhere.
Yeah.
I think otherwise it's just going to get. Melbourne was, they went about this time last year, and that was probably a good time to go. Cats are already up and flying. At some stage, they just need a touchdown before they go into finals. I don't know how you do that as a professional sporting team, but I feel like they need one. But I just don't see it being this week.
Yeah, it's a good call. It's not a bad thing to have a loss entering the finals just to get the hunger back. But it cost them last year. They missed the top. They went from 1st to 4th in the final round against you guys when Big Max.
Yeah, they can't lose top this year on paper anyway. So I do think they need to find out. It could be that they have a big resting game out of the next 3. They take this one as another tune-up. And they might not. They might not manage to lose. They might just have to run through. I don't know what sort of streak they need. They'd be getting up to almost 15, something like that, or maybe more, to win it from here if they don't manage a loss. But, unbeaten streaks is not uncommon with premier teams, and they could run the gauntlet. There's no reason why they can't. But they're at the top of their game. I just think they've quickened up the ball movement. That was the thing. They were just a bit too cautious last year. They added a little bit more firepower and Stengel, changed the midfield balance. So, it's a coaching masterclass, really. It's absolutely incredible. Chris Scott just deserves all the credit he gets and some that he doesn't get.
Yeah, I think the mindset of giving Dangerfield a mid-season, pre-season, just no other club can afford that. So it is actually a huge credit to Chris Scott and his coaching team. We'll move across to the Saturday night fixture, the other Saturday night fixture, which is at the Adelaide Oval. This is the 16th place Adelaide Crows. My boys taking on Carlton. Crows have been threatening to take down a big scalp, but I don't think it'll be this week, though. Tex's resurgence has been huge. He's ninth in the Coleman with 39 goals, despite missing the first 3 games with that backdated suspension. He shares the third best goal average with Tom Lynch, and he's only behind Curnow and Cameron. Now, here's a name for you, Bill. You probably not recognise outside of South Australia, but Sam Berry, second-year players, basically effectively immediately replaced Matt Crouch in that midfield. He's racked up 20 possessions per game past month. Listen to this stat. He's the number 1 tackler in the AFL with 9.4 tackles. He got 17 tackles a couple of weeks ago against the Pies.
I did hear that.
Danger game and a must-win for Carlton. The Curnow Mackay 2-punch forward tandem has produced 95 goals for them this year, and only behind the Geelong pairing of 101 goals. Saad has been in career best in All-Australian form off half-back with his lightning breaking speed and his penetrating left foot. Carlton need to maintain the rate. I'm going to tip the Blues by 4 to 5 goals, Bill.
Yeah, I'd take the boys by 6 goals. This would ordinarily be 2 teams who I, just love to see hurt each other. But Carlton have just been outstanding to watch this year. I watched that Giants game last week, and with Toby Green also up and about. They're just so watchable. Curnow, every contest is something's going to happen. Saad getting that dash going. It is quite good to watch, and I do wonder how deep they can go. I think they'll be too good for Adelaide. What do you think? You mentioned Crouch going out for Berry. What do you actually think about Crouch, though? It's.
I think they're going to get rid of him. Yeah, he's basically told. I think he's played his last game for the Crows. Crouch. He's got 1 year left on his contract.
Why would you not play him, get his 30 a week, and get a first-round pick in for him?
Well, he's not a first-round pick. They'll be like the way that they've played their hand. They're going
when
to
he's in the twos, he's not.
Yeah, 35 possessions in the SNFL. So I can see why they're doing it, but whether they're doing it to get the best out of a trade, they're not. But they've called a spade, and he's going to be on his way out. He's still, he's an All-Australian 2017, best and fairest 2017. Hasn't done a lot, but what he does is just he's an accumulator that doesn't do enough with the pill. He doesn't burn you.
Yeah,
he's good defensively if the ball's in his area, but once they break out into open space, his pressure acts is pretty low. So I just think they're just blooding Scott Berry as a better version potentially of him in the future. He's got a few things that he needs to nail out of his game, but yeah, Matt Crouch is going to go to a top 8 team and fit in really well and get his 25-30 a week, and that'll be the end of that. But it's interesting. They did this to a lot of those players when they had that big squeeze a few years ago. The players went out left, right, and centre. So he's probably the last of that era that's going to go. And there you go.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah, Sunday early game. We're over to Metricon. Got the Gold Coast Suns in 12th position taken on West Coast in 17th. West Coast aren't really playing that bad at the moment, but hopefully the conditions suit the Gold Coast Suns at home. Took Miller, been absolutely fine form. Not probably at his best like he was last year when he was All-Australian. I've got a feeling that we might see a white flag come up from West Coast after half-time if they're not interested. Noah Anderson's been in massive breakout year form. And Rankin's been superb. He got a bit of a rocket early in the year from the media, and he's been superb throughout the back end of the season. He's yet to sign, and he's expected to. He's got a big deal on the table for Messon and Bill, but I don't think he'd take it. West Coast. Now, what are they playing for? I was really surprised last week. Tim Kelly was kept to 4 disposals, and it's just probably a shocking trade in hindsight. So I reckon this is the worst game of the round, although you could say Essendon and in the last game against North Melbourne could be. But yeah I'm going to tip Gold Coast by 6 or 7 sausage rolls, Bill.
Yeah, I'll also tip the Suns. I think we tip the same team almost every game. The only thing if I was Stewie Dew, I'd be making it very clear to the Suns players that they need to come out breathing fire. don't let the Eagles get a foot in the door. Like you said, the white flag will come unless you give them a good look at it. If they get a sniff, then they're still a solid group. But yeah, so it's up to you, Suns. Put 3 or 4 on them early, and you can rest in the second half.
Yeah, I like the Suns. They're going to be a good team for the future, and hope they get up on Sunday in that early game. The mid-arvo game is at the G. Richmond,
massive
10th spot, playing for their season against Brisbane in 3rd spot. Could be the last chance saloon for the Tigers, and if our ladder predictors are correct, this is the one they need to win. Brisbane travelling okay, but not setting the world on fire. Really impressed with young Cumberland last week. Has plenty of potential, although he didn't stop and steady for that goal on the siren. Dan Rioli, career best form. His career's turned around going to half-back. Lockie Neal could be the big difference here. They might need to tag him out. But Dan McStay, on good authority, is off to the Pies with the free agency. The Suns the Lions are getting plenty of players back, but are they really fit? That's my concern with them. And if they lose, it's at the end of an era for the Tigers. And will Dusty play beyond this year at Tideland? I don't know. The jury's out on Brisbane. So much riding on this one, Bill. I'm going to tip Richmond in a cliffhanger.
Damn, I was hoping you'd go the Lions so we could split on a game, but I do think Richmond get it done. I'm not willing to give up on them. Even with those throwaway games that they've had, I still can't believe that they've dug this hole themselves, it's just remarkable. But yeah, I think they were pretty good against Freo. That was a good first half, a shocking second half. They're just a defensive second half. But you could sort of tell it was coming towards almost a grinding draw. Like it just tightened and tightened on itself, the game. But they're playing good footy, the Tigers still. I just don't see them going away like this. And the Lions, I'm not convinced. MCG, they just can't shake it. They keep saying it's a non-issue, the same as they keep saying their finals record's a non-issue. Well, if it's a non-issue, why does it keep happening?
Yeah, brilliant point. Couldn't agree more. Final game of round 20 is at Marvel Stadium in that late time slot. Essendon in 14th take on North Melbourne, who are stone motherless last. Not much to play for. Disappointing year for both teams. One player that's really impressed me from North Melbourne is LDU. And he's had a massive breakout year and should win their best and fairest. I reckon the mullet and the ability of Draper is growing every week, as was demonstrated by his round 18 goal of the week. North Melbourne's been decimated this week, Bill, by COVID since they've returned from Tasmania. Ooh, that was a bit harsh on the ears. And Essendon was a whisker away from victory last week, but Perth on Jones shot on goal instead of setting up for a point, Bill. So my tip this week is Essendon, but expect the bare minimum chips from both teams. But in reality, it's Essendon by how much if they rock up.
Yeah. The only thing would be North will be looking for little angles to get themselves into games to kind of finish the season with something to take out of it. So can they rouse a bit of an effort? If they don't, it'll be absolutely diabolical, because I also think Essendon would, after the season they've had and the form that they've started to turn around, and they're just looking for springboards into next year. And this is just a perfect chance to get an absolute soft kill and go nuts. It could be 100 points if they get on a roll. I don't see them stopping.
Yeah, I agree. It could get really ugly.
You could see Draper if he gets. I assume Goldstein's not been one of the COVID cases yet, but if he gets running out of the centre, he's going to try and do that over and over and over.
He's an exciting player, Draper. They gave him a 4-year deal after his initial 2-year deal, and he hadn't even played a game. So St Kilda tried to poach him, and they gave him a $400,000 4-year deal, which is extraordinary for a guy who's never played a game. I don't think I've ever seen a contract like that.
It's looking good now.
Yeah, well, they've got their bang for their buck. Now, is there anything from the Pavilion, Bill, before we get into yes, no, brought to you by Tribal Sport?
No, the tips didn't really drive any Any extra engagement? Just letting us know that the dogs are in it up to their eyeballs still.
Yeah, they are. And good luck to you, Rudy. And all the best with the birth of your first child. Shouldn't be too far away. Now,
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Exciting.
Yes, no. Brought to you by Tribal Sport, AFL Asia's preferred apparel provider. Get in touch with David Lake and the team at Tribal Sport. Get your Guernseys, everything sorted out before Asian Champs. The Osaka Dingoes have got an order on the way, Lakey, and I know that Simon Highfield has put in the AFL Asia all Asian Guernsey order. So those Guernseys have got a different look to it this year. I like the design. Can't wait to see the big rooster handing them out on October 22nd. Now, Bill, I've had to change up some of my yes-no because Angus Brayshaw signed a big 6-year banger with Melbourne earlier this morning. So that took out 4 of my questions. So we'll go to yes-no. Will Clarko coach next year in the AFL?
Yes.
Will Clarko coach North Melbourne?
No.
Will Clarko coach GWS?
Yes.
Well, that takes out Don Pike coaching GWS or Ross Lyon or any other side coach. Is Richmond's successful era coming to an end?
Yes.
Will Dusty be playing for Richmond next year?
Yes.
Will Buddy be playing for Sydney next year?
Yeah, 100%.
Will Luke Jackson be playing for Melbourne next year?
No.
Definitely at Freo?
Yep.
Has Carlton been the biggest improvers in 2022?
Carlton, did you say, sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, Freo. Carlton's still coming though. Okay, yes, no, sorry. Yes.
Righto. Well, it's going to be
playing this
Freo.
week.
Freo would have been my next question. I asked you this one about 3 or 4 months ago. Will Ken Hinkley coach Port Adelaide in 2023?
Now you're taking my questions.
Oh, well, sorry about that.
No, hang on. Yes.
Okay. Will Jordan De Goey be playing for Collingwood next year?
No.
St Kilda?
Hope not, but yeah, probably.
All right. Now
He goes to Geelong and he has a great 6 years. He goes to St Kilda and he becomes a St Kilda player.
He just becomes a St Kilda dud. Yeah, I agree. All right. Some Asian champs, yes, no, Bill.
Okay.
Will the PNG Marooks win the Division 1 Asian champs this year?
Yes, if they're there.
Well, they've said last week that they're coming. So
Okay. There you go. Hot off the press.
Will the Thailand Tigers win the Division 2 Asian champs this year?
Yes.
Now, Philippine Eagles are going back to Division 2 with a shell of their former selves. Talked to Spargs and Winner the last couple of days, so you get a pretty tough assignment ahead of them. But Thailand Tigers for me in Division 2 as well. Now, after being grand finalists in 2018 and 19, the Hong Kong Dragons women's team, can they win the AFLW Asian Champs this year?
Yes. Well, yes, certainly. These are right. Pretty sight unseen, but I'd be pretty confident that their talent pool would be as good as anyone still.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think Singapore will actually be a big one there. They've built massively since their initial debut in 2019. Now, last one, interesting one, and this is a good question for Inam as well. Will either of the Pakistan teams win a game at this year's Asian Champs if they attend?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's hope so. Now,
they're going to win.
That's all my yes, no.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it
I've got a couple. I've got a couple for you, Matty. And the
obviously getting back to your South Australian heritage because it fascinates me a little bit and it touches. That doesn't actually. So will the Crows be the next South Australian team to play finals?
No, I still think Port have got a little run in them. Yeah.
Righto.
Yeah.
If and when the Crows do play finals, will Matty Nix be the coach?
Yes, I think he's going to be one of those coaches that gets through the
Makes
middle.
it.
Yeah. Not many of
They
them.
were my two questions. And
Righto.
so that's interesting. You still think Port have a bit to give. Okay, wait. I'll flip your question. Will Hinkley coach Port next year?
Yeah, he's contracted. Yes.
Yeah.
I think if GWS headhunted him, I think it'd be a good thing for both parties. Though Ken's been there for 10 years, I think, 9 years, 10 years. So
Yeah.
why not? Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Interesting.
All right, Bill. We're less than 3 months now into Asian Champs. Can't wait to catch up with you, mate, and all of the AFL Asia family in a few months' time. We're going to have some good podcasts coming up in the next few weeks as we wind down and head into the pointy end of the AFL season and the finals campaign and leading into our Asian Champs. We'll hopefully get a few more guests back on our podcast very, very shortly. Bill, it's been magnificent catching up with you, and we'll catch up with you soon. I'm on a bit of a walking pilgrimage next week, so if we're going to do a podcast, it'll have to be early in the week, but it's been brilliant to catch up with you, and stay cool and stay hydrated, Bill.
Yeah, you too, mate. Speak to you soon.
And this is Matty Gale and Billy Bang Bang Krang. How good's footy in Asia? See you next time.